It is 1988. Steve Jobs has already been forced out of the company he built. Apple's lawyers are standing in a courtroom, about to file a lawsuit that will consume the next 4 years of their lives and lose. The man they're suing? Bill Gates. The crime. Stealing the future Apple invented. What they don't know yet is that they handed him the keys themselves. In 1976, 2 men built the first Apple computer on a workbench in a garage in Los Altos, California. By 1980, Apple was a public company worth $1.8 billion on its first day of trading, the largest tech IPO since Ford Motor Company went public in 1956. The Apple II wasn't just a product. It was the reason the personal computer industry existed. By 1982, it had generated over $1 billion in sales. Time magazine named the personal computer its Machine of the Year, the first time a non-human had ever received the honor. No one in Silicon Valley could touch Apple. Steve Jobs was 26 years old, richer than almost everyone alive, and completely certain he was building the future. He was right. That was the problem. Bill Gates dropped out of Harvard in 1975, not because he was failing. He was one of the few undergraduates admitted to a graduate mathematics course. He left because he saw something everyone else missed. Software, not hardware, was going to be worth more than anything. In 1980, IBM came to Gates looking for an operating system for their new personal computer. Gates didn't have one. He went out and bought one, QDOS, Quick and Dirty Operating System, for $50,000 from a Seattle programmer named Tim Patterson. He renamed it MS-DOS and licensed it to IBM. The critical detail? He kept the rights. Every IBM PC that sold made Microsoft richer. Every IBM clone that sold made Microsoft richer still. By the time the industry understood what Gates had done, it was too late to undo it. Microsoft didn't build a better mousetrap. They built the trap everyone else had to walk through. Round 1, 1981. The Xerox heist that launched 2 empires. In 1979, Steve Jobs toured the Xerox PARC research facility in Palo Alto. What he saw changed everything. A computer controlled by a mouse, with windows and icons instead of typed commands. Xerox had invented the graphical user interface and done nothing with it. Jobs did. He ordered his engineers to build it into the Lisa. Then, the Macintosh. What he didn't anticipate was that he had already given Microsoft a front row seat. In 1981, Apple hired Microsoft to write software for the forthcoming Macintosh and allowed Gates's programmers inside the project for years. Gates saw exactly what Jobs saw at Xerox. He just got closer. Round 2, 1984, the Macintosh versus the world. January 22nd, 1984. Apple airs 1984 during the Super Bowl, one of the most celebrated advertisements in television history. 2 days later, the Macintosh launches at $2,499. The crowd at the launch event goes insane. The media calls it a revolution. Sales were strong for 6 weeks. Then they collapsed. The Mac had no software, 128 kilobytes of RAM, and no hard drive. It was a vision of the future that the present couldn't yet afford or use. Apple sold 70,000 units in the first 100 days. Their target was 80,000 in the first month. Microsoft, meanwhile, was selling software for IBM PCs to millions of ordinary businesses. Function was beating beauty, and the market had no sentiment about it. In November 1985, Microsoft shipped Windows 1.0. It was slow, clunky, and nearly identical in concept to the Macintosh interface. Jobs was furious. He called Gates directly. In the meeting that followed, Gates delivered one of the most cold-blooded lines in corporate history. "Well, Steve, I think it's more like we both had this rich neighbor named Xerox, and I broke into his house to steal the TV set and found out you had already stolen it." Gates wasn't afraid of Jobs. He understood the one thing Jobs refused to accept. The market didn't need the best product. It needed the most available one. Windows 1.0 was a bad product. It didn't matter. There were millions of IBM PC users who would eventually need a graphical interface, and Microsoft was already in the room. That same year, the Apple board forced Steve Jobs out of the company he co-founded. Apple was in open civil war with itself. Microsoft was quietly building a monopoly. In March 1988, Apple filed suit against Microsoft, claiming Windows 2.0 violated the look and feel of the Macintosh interface. The lawsuit listed 189 visual similarities. It was the most aggressive intellectual property case in tech history at that point. Apple's mistake was foundational. In 1985, they had signed a licensing agreement with Microsoft, granting use of certain Mac interface elements in Windows 1.0. Judge William Orrick ruled in 1992 that the agreement covered the visual displays in Windows 2.0 and 3.0 as well. Of the 189 claims Apple brought, 199 were dismissed outright. The remaining 10 were ruled not to infringe. Apple spent 4 years and tens of millions of dollars on a lawsuit they had already lost before they filed it. During those same 4 years, Microsoft shipped Windows 3.0, which sold 3 million copies in its first year. The turning point wasn't the lawsuit. It wasn't Windows 1.0. It was the contract Apple signed in 1985, the one that licensed Macintosh interface elements to Microsoft. That single document surrendered Apple's most powerful legal weapon before the battle had begun. But the deeper failure was strategic. Apple built a closed system, proprietary hardware, proprietary software, tightly controlled margins. Jobs believed control produced quality. He wasn't wrong about that. He was wrong about the market's willingness to pay for it. At $2,499, the Mac cost more than 3 months of average American rent. IBM PC clones ran as low as $700. Gates saw the PC market as infrastructure, something that needed to be everywhere, not perfect. By the time Windows 3.0 shipped in 1990, with 80 million potential users on IBM-compatible hardware, Apple had roughly 5% of the market. The war was over. The scoreboard just hadn't caught up yet. Microsoft won, not because it built a better product, but because it owned the platform everyone else had to build on. The first lesson: distribution beats quality in a land grab. Apple had the better interface in 1984. They lost because Gates got MS-DOS onto every IBM PC sold, then turned that installed base into a platform. If you're entering a market early, your first job is not to be the best. It's to be everywhere. The second lesson: read every contract as if you've already lost. Apple signed the 1985 Microsoft licensing agreement without understanding its long-term scope. That document, not Windows, not the clones, is what handed Gates the Dewey market. Contracts are strategy. Legal is strategy. Treating them as afterthoughts is a decision with a decade-long price tag. The third lesson: open platforms compound. Closed ones stagnate. Every developer Microsoft attracted made Windows more valuable. Apple's walled garden produced beautiful products and a stagnant ecosystem. The market eventually rewards the platform others can build on, not the platform one company controls perfectly. Microsoft controlled the PC market for 15 years. Then a company nobody took seriously in 1998 built a search engine in a dorm room and quietly began dismantling everything Gates had built from the inside out. That story is next. This is the Rivalry Code,